Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Man, we're doing it again, the where to start, the month of February. This is where I try to break lakes down, and we got two lakes that I've never been on this month, and it's from lakes that you guys send in and tell me about, and we give a battery away every month. We give one of these Optima blue top batteries, so it's actually a certificate. You guys can get whatever you want, so really cool. At the end of this video, we'll pick from the last November, was the last time we did this. Pick a winner out. Actually, I already got him picked out on my phone. My wife did it. We'll let you know who that is. Just send me an email. But how do you enter to win one of these batteries? You just leave a comment, leave a like, tell me good, bad, whatever you like about it. So just leave a comment. That's simple. We go down through there randomly and we pick a winner. You might notice we got a lot of wind. Like my building, I feel like, is moving. The wind is blowing so hard today. It'd be rough to be on the water. I'd love to be on the water today, but it'd be a rough day on the water, let me tell you. All right, so let's get into it. Breaking lakes down in February. First of all, February, I think about consistent water. I think about change. I think about, some parts of the country still winter. Some of the parts of the country, heck, down south, fish have already spawned for a month. So, but all in all, in general, I generally want to pick, the colder the water, the clearer I want it to be. I want to find the most consistent water. And what I mean by that, if there's a section of your lake that just got muddy, that's not consistent. That's going to compound things, make things harder for fish to get bit. If the wind's really blowing, and it's been blowing in these pockets or in this creek, maybe you got a creek that the predominant winds just howls in all the time. I want to get out of those areas. I want to get in areas that are consistent, that the water clarity is not going to be changed by the wind, by the rain. I want to be in the most consistent area, and that's also going to be the most consistent water temperature. If you think back to the Classic I won on Grand, I won with that big bag the final day because that was the most consistent water coming into the lake. That had a lot of flow to it. It never changed, no matter how low it got at night or how warm it got. That was just a real consistent. The bite wasn't going to change on me. So I think about that a lot when I think about February fishing. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's get into the lake. The first lake, I had Trip Franklin 2396 send it in. Hyco, I think I'm saying it right, Hyco. It's in northern North Carolina, which is kind of cool. We've got red crest in February at Lake Norman. I'm not going to break that one down for you. I've fished that lake a bunch, but maybe we can go over how we win that tournament when I go to win that. So that'd be pretty cool. Probably by the time you're watching this, maybe that tournament's going on. So tune in over to Major League Fishing and see if that's going on. But all right, back to Hyco. Hyco, however you want to say it. It looks like it's a 3,700 acre lake. It's got a power plant on it. I'm not sure how much that really affects the water because a little bit of research I was able to see that the water temperature right there is 47 right now, so I feel like that'd probably be what the water temperature would normally be. And then also, I don't see that it has spotted bass or smallmouth. I think it's just a largemouth fishery, so I always try to keep that in mind as I'm trying to learn a little bit about these lakes. So, all right, let's start here on the C-map, just to kind of show you guys where it's at. So here's the state of North Carolina. I zoom in on it right here, and you can see it's right there on the northern border. It's just south and east of Danville. Cool looking lake. I think it's got 120 miles of shoreline. It's got a lot of diversity and bridges and coves, and for a 3,700 acre lake, it's going to fish really, really big. This right here is going to be the canal, to do with that power plant reservoir. I'm guessing all this is cut off. When I go to a lake for the first time, I feel like this lake's elevation is 411, so it's not like a mountainous lake, but it's not a lowland lake either. So I don't think these fish are going to really spawn on this lake till, they're sure not going to be spawning in February. I'm going to say March or April, unless the power plant's just rolling, which I don't know, guys. I've never been there. So when I think of February, I'm thinking pre-spawn all the way. Pre-spawn, late winter. That's just what I'm thinking. And when I look at the lake, I think the lake's going to be a really, really clear lake. Especially in this lower end. So back to what I was trying to initially say. A lot of times, if I've never been to a body of water, I want to find where that water mixes. Like if this was stained water coming in this reed fork up here, and this was all clear water down here, you know, somewhere in there that water's going to mix. It's usually, you know, 2/3, halfway to 2/3 up a lake. And, you know, when I zoom in on this area, man, there's a cool bridge right here. I don't know, just for me, the way that bridge faces, it's going to be, this south side of it's going to be in the sun all day long. This upper end of this lake is going to be shallower than this lower end, way shallower. Thus, this water is going to warm up the quickest. I mean, it's just going to warm up, and especially on that bridge. When I look at it over here on Google Earth, I've got a really good stretch of riprap right here that, man, that thing is going to be in the sun all day long. I just, for me, and this wasn't blowed out with mud, that's where I'd want to start. Like if everything was normal, I like that. I would start right here, probably jerkbait around the end of this thing, and I'd crank right down the side of that thing with my favorite crankbait, like a Fritz side or something. So that's my #1 place to start so far on this, I hope I'm saying it right, Hyco Lake. If I was to, there's a couple other things. I'm gonna kind of, man, it looks like there's tons of boat traffic on this lake later in the year. Okay, so looking at this a little further, that's not actually a discharge canal. There's boats running in that. That is some sort of access to this portion of the lake. You got another bridge. That's kind of cool. You got your own canal, so it's cut off right here. Got another buoy line right there with a boat tied up. I'm just always looking, you know, like if you've got a power plant on your lake, obviously that is a great place to start because it's going to be warmer water. You know, it's just truly is. So I'm guessing maybe this all sucks water in through this way and then it discharges right here. You guys watching this can tell me. I could probably zoom in through some of these photos and see some flow in it. That's definitely a canal. Let's see which way these buoys are facing. They're just straight as an arrow right there. Interesting. I don't really know, but if I was to pick a spot to start, a discharge on a power plant with warm water coming out in a cold water situation is always a great place to start. But let's pick another area. So there's the dam. One thing you notice, it's got a spillway, so this lake does not fluctuate hardly at all. This is a really intriguing creeks to me because I like creeks that are, you know, big and point due north. You'll get a good warm south wind that might blow in there. Same thing here, but what I like is this big splitter point in the back. To me, a lot of times in certain lakes, you know, depending on the bait fish, you're gonna have a pile of fish that winter right in here. Just, you know, if you've got 20 to 40 feet of water, you could have a pile of fish that winter right in here. So I would idle down through here where this narrows down. You got to think everything's wide, and then it narrows down. Not only narrows down this away, but the water, like if it's super deep, it narrows down this away. So right here where this narrows down on your body of water on this one is an area that those fish winter on shad that are continually blown in there, and you know, it just confines everything. So I feel like somewhere in here, there's gonna be a little stretch where all that happens. It looks to me like, you know, here on my C map also, yeah, it looks good. The contour lines get really tight. There's a little hole right there, you know, you can see. And I just like that. I would, if there's open water fish, you know, jerkbait fish, swim bait fish, those kinds of things, that area to me looks really good. Now, if the fish are a little further along, I like the way this bank looks right here. Again, I've got a riprap bank. Looks like right here. I saw it on one of these photos. It's just a super cool riprap bank. Yeah, you can see it right there. Another one right here. You just got riprap all down through here. So that to me, it's in the sun in this photo. It's gonna warm up quick. You know, those fish can pull right back there and spawn towards the end of February. It'd be a great place to throw a crankbait, slow roll a spinnerbait, those kinds of things. It's just a neat little area right there that I think holds a lot of potential. Where this narrows down, then those fish could be spawning in the back of that. All right, let's pick one more. One more real quick. Franklin Spring. I'm just looking at this word right here. So do we have a spring in the back of this pocket? Man, to me, I would go check that out, because if there's a spring right there, that's going to be mid 50-degree water temperature. If the lake's 47 degrees right now at the start of February, that could be an area that just is a drawing factor to bait fish, thus the bass following. So that would be something that I would check out, where I would possibly start to see. Water looks really clear. It looks like you got a lot of flow in the backs of these pockets, on all these pockets I've just noticed. But man, to me, like I look all the time for springs, you know, January, February, March, you know, anytime that stuff's cold. Same thing with that Grand. That's how I won that Classic. That was just continuously warmer water that was coming into the lake. So I'd probably look in the back of that pocket. Yeah, that's 3 areas to start to look at on this lake. It's not a great big lake. There's obviously got to be a really good dock pattern going on it too. You know, and for that, I just like to fish docks all the way in the back and docks all the way in the front. You know, try to pick some of these smaller pockets, you know, ones that are on points, you know, docks that are different. Obviously ones that maybe have a riprap bank or steeper bank, or even flatter banks. At the end of February, man, they get on those flatter banks because they warm up quicker. Always think about the sun, what it's hitting, what's going to warm up the quickest, you know, for a cold-blooded creature like a bass. So cool looking lake. I hope one of these days I get to go fish this thing. All right, the next lake that I want to break down, man, I get lots of requests nonstop, and I didn't write the names down because I had so many of them, is Florida lakes. And here's the thing with Florida lakes. They're hard for me to tell you through Google Earth, through CMAP, how to break them down, because there's not a lot you can see. You know, like when I zoom into Google Earth, you know, there's no really fluctuating water levels. The lakes are really flat. There's not a lot of contour lines. Fish don't relate to contour lines. They don't relate to creek bends because you don't have that stuff down there. So when I go to break a lake down, I'm going to head to Florida here tomorrow. When I head down there, the number one thing I'm going to look for is cleaner, clearer water on any given body of water in Florida. And let's take Lake Toho for instance. What a cool lake. I mean, I fished it quite a bit. I know a little bit about it. Obviously not as much as those people that live right there. But day in, day out, the cleanest, clearest water always prevails. Always is the best case scenario for you to be able to catch fish. Something that just popped in my brain thinking about Florida current. You know, if you have a lot of current in Florida, that trumps everything. You know, that they gravitate to current like no other. You know, the lock right there, here on the south end of Toho, there's been bazillions of bass caught on the front side, on the back side of that lock. You know, this creek over here that comes in this, you know, far right-hand corner. If you've got water coming in there, there's going to be fish relating to that. And that happens after big rain events. You know, you've got Shingle Creek up here on the north end that man, if water's coming in, no matter what time of the year, they relate to that stuff. Same thing with this canal that comes in out of East Lake Toho. Current's another trump card. Clear water, current. Okay, another one, hydrilla. Like, to me, like, if you can find clean water, offshore hydrilla, that's green and growing. I mean, to me, that's always been a trump card. You know, like the south end of Toho, right out in here, there's been a lot of fish caught in the last 5-10 years, you know, out over this grass that's out in this big bay. Well, how do you break that down? How do you start out there? Because that's 10,000 acres of water. You just go. Like, you put your favorite lipless crankbait on, you put your favorite bladed jig on, your favorite swim bait on, and you go. You just put that trolling motor maybe on constant speed if you struggle with that, and just go. Just go. And when you get a bite, hit a waypoint and then do a big circle around it. And if you don't get another bite, go again. And when you get to the other side of the lake, you get to the end of the grass, run back so you have a little break, scoot over a couple 100 yards, and then just go again. It's just a matter of covering water. When you have no depth change, no grass edge, nothing like that, you're just going to go, because somewhere out there in that grass is going to be a hard spot. It's going to be an edge, going to be a hole that's going to hold a lot of fish. And that's the only way to find it. It's the only way I know to tell you to find it. There's not a magic answer when you look at the CMAP. You know, there's not a magic answer when you look at Google Earth for Florida lakes. There's just not. You know, another thing that I look at when I look at Florida, I think of February, I think possibly fish spawning on the full moons. You know, this northern end is a lot shallower, smaller, tighter, more confined, more protected from the wind. That's a big thing in Florida. Wind, wind, wind. The leeward side, the side that the wind is blowing from, the protected sides, that water's going to be cleaner. Just wind down there generates all that plankton, makes it muddy. So, you know, when you look at this back here, Goblet's Cove, that's going to be a very protected area. Those fish are going to spawn sooner. This whole north end of Toho, that's going to be a protected area, cleaner, clearer water, less wind, shallower water, and it warms up quicker. So if I was going down there wanting to catch bedding fish, looking for the first sight fish, this area right here, super good area for early January, early February for bedding protected sight fish. You know, you can see all this grass out here that's going to protect it. Just a really popular area, great area to start on Toho. It just is day in, day out. So, you know, with that, I hope that answers your questions. For me, when I go to Florida and I'm trying to break it down, I want to cover as much water. A lot of people talk about fishing slow. Yes, you fish slow after you found the fish, but you're looking for that first bite. And when you get that first 4, 5, 6, 7 pound bite, there's something to it. You've got to just start picking that area apart, doing circles, you know, changing baits. That's, generally speaking, those aren't curveballs. Every now and then you'll get a curveball 5 pound bite, but most of the time that fish is there for a reason. And that's when I slow down. That's when I start, you know, mixing things up, trying to figure it out. If I don't get another bite fairly quick, put that trolling motor back on, get that moving bait, and go until you get another bite. For me, that's what's worked in Florida through the years and how to break it down. I don't slow down until I get in an area where I get a bite or two, then I'll slow down and really start picking that thing apart. So I hope that helps you down there. I can't wait to get to Toho. That's our first tournament of the year for the Bass Pro Tour. And I will be going and chunking a bunch of baits trying to get after it. All right, so the last lake, I wanted to kind of pick something a little bit closer to home. I have been on it some. I don't know a ton about it. What I do know about it is it fishes a lot like Grand. I think they're two spitting images, and that's Lake of the Ozarks, right there in the middle of Missouri. The month of February, water's cold, guys. It's probably one of the tougher months on the lake. You know, January, February, the 1st of March can be some of the absolute toughest fishing on lakes like Lake of the Ozarks, like lakes like Grand. So when I have those toughest conditions, I want the most consistent water, just like what we talked about in that first video. And the lower end of the lake, water that doesn't get a bunch of influx from rainwater, you know, those are the kinds of things. Consistent water. I don't want to be in a lot of if this whole main stretch has got current, I don't want to be in it. I want to be off of it most of the time. You know, there are times that main stretch will be key if the water temperatures are all the same. But, you know, for me, if I was to pick a place to start on Lake of the Ozarks and the little bit that I know about it, you know, this Gravois arm down here on the lower end is just a really consistent body of water. Yes, the back end of this gets dirtier and gets muddier, but man, this front half of this thing's got lots of gravel banks, lots of spawning habitat, lots of, it holds a lot of fish. You know, there's a Kaufman Beach access here that a lot of tournaments go out of, so it gets replenished all the time. You know, to me, I would give myself a day in this creek arm just trying to learn as much about it as I can. So when I dive off into it a little bit more, man, this pops out in my head. See how this makes that 90 right here? I love that. I'd zoom in on that deal right there, and I'd come over here to my C-map, and I would idle around, and I'd find me a brush ball out off that point right there where that thing makes that bend. So we got it that we got this piece here, and it makes this bend. You know, I know this doesn't look like much of a point, but right here somewhere that makes a point, that makes a point. I would idle, you know, this isolated dock right here. There's got to be brush piles out in front of this, right out in here. To me, that is a perfect February staging spot, something 15, 20 feet deep, a brush pile, isolated brush pile that I can throw my jerkbait over. Throw my Alabama rig over. I don't throw Alabama rigs a lot unless I'm fun fishing. Swim a grub over. To me, that's a place I would start. There where that thing makes a bend. You know, it's just real easy for those fish to pull up here. I've got good south wind that blows in. It makes a turn. It's just it's different because it makes that 90. Not everything makes a 90 like that. Another spot, let's just find something else. I really like secondary points this time of year. Like if you were to run up this creek, I don't even know the name of it, but I've got some really good secondary points. You know, right here, this one right here, to me, I love how this one sets up. You zoom in on this. If there's a brush pile right out here, out in this 15 to 20 feet of water, that's where that's going to be. And again, you're going to notice that's really similar to the spots that I've picked in a lot of videos. That's back there where that water starts to hump up, where it starts to get shallow, where things start to confine. It's where those fish will winter. It's where those fish will stage before they spawn. I'm going to find me a brush pile out off this point, and I'm going to throw my jerk bait. I'm going to throw my swim bait out off that point, off that brush pile. To me, that is prime time February fishing cover. It just truly, truly is. Now, if I was to take it one step further and let's just talk about one more spot or one more area, something else to start. Those two spots I showed you was, you know, this is a secondary creek of a secondary creek. So they were way in the back. If fish are not quite that far back, I would pick out something a little bit more main lake. Let's just zoom out here and just see if we can find something a little bit more main lake that sticks out to me. I would probably, you know, just looking at this, I would probably think about channel swings. You know, we're gonna have a really big channel swing that comes down through here. This thing's gonna bend off right here. So this is a big channel, right down through here. This is gonna be a bluff end. This is gonna be a bluff end of some sort. I would look at points like that one, right off of this one, possibly off of this one. Again, I want to find that brush pile. I want to find some sort of target, big rocks out there underneath the water that I can throw that jerkbait, throw that Alabama rig over. Those 3 or 4 points right there, I think would be spot on all throughout the month of February. Those might be the really big fish too. Like out there like that, they could be just holding back a little bit, those pockets in the back, those brush piles in the back. Those could be the males, you know, already moved up, or just a whole separate group of fish. But I would definitely want to check, you know, the back 2/3, a couple of those pockets, and then move out and check the main lake points of a few of those pockets. Just to show you what those pockets look like here on, you know, my C-map, that channel, like you can see right here, you know, that channel swings down. It's steep. I know it's really steep, but that doesn't mean those fish don't hold. They congregate right there off that point. Same thing off that point, that point, that point. You know, heck, there's even a fish symbol there on my C-map. That's the stuff that I'd really look for. You know, right here, you got 2 more. You got a really, kind of hidden one right down through here. Those are going to be areas that I think are going to hold fish in February on this lake. You know, throwing that jerk bait, those kinds of things. So a lake like Lake of the Ozarks, you know, with it being 55,000 acres, it doesn't fluctuate a lot. You've got to pick a creek arm. You cannot try to cover that whole thing. Yes, I could go and show you 10, 20 other spots where to start, you know, 50 miles up the lake, 80 miles up the lake. You've got to pick it and put, you know, you've got to compartmentalize it. You got to make it smaller to where you can manage it. You know, like you can get in this creek or any one of these creeks. Go to the Niangua, go to one of the other creeks, and then learn what the bass are doing in that creek. You know, those are big creeks, 10, 12, 15 miles long. Bass for days, for lifetimes in those creeks. You cannot run from one to the next all in a day and be efficient at all. Now, if I ran into this creek here and it's all blowed out, yes, I'm not going to try to pick it apart. I'm going to see if I can find something cleaner or clearer that's more stable. But remember that when you go to try to pick apart a big body of water like that, get somewhere you are comfortable, get somewhere that you have confidence, and just start like picking it apart. Don't try to cover that whole lake in a day. It's impossible to do. I think a lake like this has over 1,000 miles of shoreline, so it fishes really big. Thing about it is, once you get a few bites, you can duplicate that then. These lakes like this are perfect lakes for running a pattern, and it's something that I love about these types of lakes. So guys, I hope this helps you. I hope this just narrows it down. That's all this video series is about. It's just narrowing it down, a place for you to go put that trolling motor down, to make those first casts, to have some confidence. That's what I'm trying to do, is just try to help you get some confidence. And when you put that trolling motor down, these are some places that are high percentage that you might get your first bite, and then take it from there. And just because I didn't mention your lake, you know, these areas where to start, like this Hyco Lake and this Lake of the Ozarks, are really similar. They're 1,000 miles apart, but the places to start are really, really similar. So these videos, you can take these videos and use them on your given lake. So all right, let's get to the winner. I had my wife pick it this week. I needed some help, so she picked it out. I've got to go to her text. And she picked out Michael Hansen 2235. He said, love these videos. Even when it's lakes I don't fish, it helps me keep an open mind and find new areas. Love your channel and those Optimum batteries. Would love to see you break down West Point in LaGrange or Wedowee in Alabama. I've done West Point before, Michael, but man, congratulations. You just won an Optima Blue Top battery certificate, and I just need you to send me an email through my website. I will get that certificate emailed over to you, and it's real simple. You just mail it in, and they'll send you one in the mail. How do you win a battery next month, you're asking? Just leave a comment in this video right here. Be sure you're a subscriber. That helps my channel a bunch. And you guys be following along on the social channels. Tournament season's here. Got my new boat, headed to Florida, then we go to Red Crest, and then we go to South Carolina, Lake Murray. I can't wait to get the season started. I'm really, really jacked up, excited about it. I love doing these. They're a challenge, but it's what I do. It's what I've done for 20 years, traveling the circuit. So leave me a comment, guys, thumbs up. Be sure you're a subscriber, and we will see you next week.